plastic face on it and have a neck that screws on. So only this part of the instrument is wood.
Amazing. Wow. Kind of looks like a Chinese pipa. You're about to
A what?
say. A pipa. They also use a bow.
They use a bow.
To play, yeah.
Do they play it upright?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so this is something familiar for everybody. It's a song by Van Morrison. Really awesome. Let's see.
Probably Gloria.
Actually, I gotta go back to my house and get it, so I'll have someone go next, okay?
Oh.
Sorry, forgot it. Gloria?
You don't know that?
It's crazy in everybody, and you can go. So, anyway, I had the opportunity when I used to work with Peace Health to go to El Salvador with the Peace Health Paz Salud program, and I became aware at that time. I'm kind of naive in politics, but I found out that the politics and corruption on the rights for water are really horrible. So when I was little, I learned about this tongue twister, which I believe I did it before, but I'm not so sure. So I'm gonna tell you what the tongue twister means in English, but the author is unknown. I don't know who it is. So what it means is that somebody is announcing to the public in Panama that the public water is going to end, so the public can take water from the bridge to use it. So, aviso al público de la República de Panamá que el agua pública del puente público de la República se va a acabar, para que el público de la República de Panamá coja agua pública del puente público de la República de Panamá. That's it.
Jack picked a bag of pickle peppers.
Yeah, I love tongue twisters.
Yeah.
So one day I was watching Colombo with closed captions, and they were talking about DNA and this person having good genes, but they spell genes with J instead of with G, like G, they spell it with J. So I sat down and I wrote this silly sort of tongue twister. Jeannie the genie had good genes. She wore yellow jeans when she went to the gymnasium to meet Gino, the genius geneticist geek who worked with the Genome Project. What kind of jeans Jeannie the Gene wore when she went to the gymnasium to meet Gino the genius geneticist geek who worked with the Genome Project? Answer me.
Yellow.
Yellow jeans. There you go. I wish I had a prize because I was, this is something, and it's kind of like a riddle. This is a little short riddle. If you know it, please don't give me the answer right away, but, let others think a little. You can see it, but it weighs nothing. Put it in a bucket, and the bucket weighs less. What is it? Anybody? Does anybody know? You can see it? You can see it, yes, you can see it. And it weighs nothing. And if you put it in a bucket or in a container, that bucket or container weighs nothing. Weighs less.
Air.
Okay, give up?
Yes.
A hole.
Oh.
There's a hole in the
A hole.
your life.
book in a farm, like in a old shop there, like in a book that was really old. It was like a sale, how you call those? Yard sale, something that was in a book.
Estate sale? Oh,
Yeah.
yard sale.
And this brought me to the idea that I had this for a long time. And I went to see my detective work. Because like, sometimes I found a poem like the What is a Boy, que es un muchacho, that they were different authors, and I investigated, and it's still the same. And in English and Spanish with different authors, who stole who? This one doesn't have an author. But I investigated and found out that maybe it's from a Reverend I.J. Bartlett that published the newspapers. Think about it, newspaper used to publish poetry, no nowadays. But in 1916 or 1917, they published in newspapers. And it's really pretty, and it reminds me of Cottage Grove. Because I love Cottage Grove, but mostly I love people. This is what it brought me to. I call Saturday Market.
Yes.
I love going over there and enjoy seeing the poetry peddlers. So that's why it brought me to kind of bring back this. So anyway, there is a town called Don't You Worry on the banks of River Smile, where the cheer up and be happy blossom sweetly all the while, where the never grumble flower blooms beside the flagrant try, and they never give up and patience point their faces to the sky. In the Valley of Contentment, in the province of I Will, you will find this lovely city at the foot of No Friend Hill. There are thoroughfares delightful in this very charming town, and the every hand are shade trees named the very seldom down. Rustic benches quite enticing, you'll find scattered here and there, and the each vine is clinging, called the frequent earnest prayer. Everybody here is happy and is singing all the while in the town of Don't You Worry on the banks of River Smile. Very old. So it's good to find these treasures hidden in books. So, and this last but not least, by our famous Charles Mattoon, is about the elders, our ancestors. And I love them, by the way. The people of our past are not just in the past. The ancestors spread out behind me from my spine, like wings, layers of feathers purposely grown out on the stream of time. Their living dreams have my back. They are part of what's mine, and they remind me that I spread out through time, and inspire me to have my descendants' backs, to live with all the dignity and grace the elders lent to me, through my back and into the light shining forward on my face. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is the song called Stone Me. I'm sure everybody knows it.
That's the poem.
Half a mile from the county fair, the rain came falling down. Me and Billy standing there with a silver half crown. Hands all full of fishing rods and the tackle on our backs. just stood there getting wet without backs. Here we go. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, but don't rain on deep. And it's thrown me to my soul. Stone me just like a jelly roll. And it's thrown me. And it's thrown me to my soul. Stone me just like going home. And it's thrown me. And the rain lit up and the sun came up. We were getting dry. Almost let a pickup truck nearly pass us by. But we jumped right in, and it dropped us at the road. And we looked at the swim, and we jumped right in my dimension fishing hole. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Let it run all over me. And it's thrown me to my soul. It's thrown me just like a jelly roll. And it's thrown me, I turn the page. And it's thrown me to my soul. It's thrown me just like a roll. And it's thrown me. On the way back home, we sang a song, but our throats were getting dry. And we saw the man across the road with the sunshine in his eyes. And he lived all alone in his own little home with a great big gallon jar. There are bottles too, one for me and you. And he said, hey, there you are. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Getting myself a mountain stream. And it's thrown me to my soul. Stone me just like a jelly roll. And it's thrown me. And it's thrown me to my soul. Stone me just like going home. And it's thrown me.
Great, Michael. All right.
Next we have Kim. Come on, Kim. The lady of the house.
Van Morrison took back the fall.
I know it. So good to see new faces.
Yes, it is.
And old faces.
Here in the cottage.
And all of the other youngsters out there. My little commercial is next Tuesday, right here, from 6 to 11, I think it is. We're doing karaoke.
Oh.
So freebie karaoke, there'll be a food truck. I'll be selling adults and other beverages. So just pop in for karaoke fun.
Karaoke.
Karaoke.
Next Tuesday.
Right here,
I'll
next
be in
Tuesday.
California.
Next Tuesday. So let's see.
And the DJ's really, really good. And he'll get everybody dancing. It's
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
he's,
Right
full of
on.
energy.
done it before?
So, anyway, that's next Tuesday. Meanwhile, back to poetry night. I have, this poem came into my inbox via Poem of the Day just a couple days ago, and it described our current situation so perfectly. What is June anyway? By someone named David Budville.
David
Bud Bill.
Bud Bill.
Yes. After 3 weeks of hot weather and drought, we've had a week of cold and rain, just the way it ought to be here in the north in June. A fire going in the wood stove all day long, so you can go outside in the cold and rain anytime and smell the wood smoke in the air. This is the way I love it. This is why I came here almost 50 years ago. What is June anyway without cold and rain and a fire going in the stove all day? Somehow he read Oregon Fine.
December.
And then, just because I didn't have any good segue for that, William Stafford's always worth reading, you know. Fine Oregon poets. And so I just almost relatively quickly and randomly picked out some poems out of this book. Ask Me. It's the 100 Essential Poems of William Stafford. This one is called Vocation. This dream the world is having about itself includes a trace on the plains of the Oregon Trail. A groove in the grass my father showed us all one day while meadowlarks were trying to tell something better about to happen. I dreamed of the trace to the mountains, over the hills, and there a girl who belonged wherever she was. But then my mother called us back to the car. She was afraid. She always blamed the place, the time, anything my father planned. Now both of my parents, the long line through the plain, the meadowlarks, the sky, the world's whole dream remain. And I hear him say while I stand between the two, helpless, both of them part of me, your job is to find what the world is trying to be.
Is Stafford still alive?
No, he died a few years ago. But his son, Kim Stafford, is now the poet laureate of Oregon.
No, he's not anymore.
Much like
There's a new
his
one.
father was at some point.
Not far from the tree.
There's a new poet laureate in Oregon.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
A young,
Yeah, I can't remember
foreign
anyway.
sounding name, Iranian.
Yeah, that's right.
Do they have one every year? Do they-
No, this is
No.
kind of
They-
somewhat random-ish, I don't know.
Like
I don't know
a
what else
statewide
about
I
this
think
one.
it's elected by the, if you have a change in governor, for instance, there'll often be
yeah.
a new one with the change of governor.
Okay.
Hmm.
This one is called Burning a Book. Protecting each other, right in the center, a few pages glow a long time. The cover goes first, then outer leaves curling away, then spine and a scattering. Truth, brittle and faint, burns easily. Its fire is hot as the fire lies make. Flame doesn't care. You can usually find a few charred words in the ashes. And some books ought to burn, trying for character but just faking it. More disturbing than book ashes are whole libraries that no one got around to writing. Desolate towns, miles of unthought-in cities, and the terrorized countryside where wild dogs own anything that moves. If a book isn't written, no one needs to burn it. Ignorance can dance in the absence of fire. So I've burned books, and there are many I haven't even written, and nobody has. Along with being kind of a philosophical poet and anti-war poet, and this one is kind of a little bit different, but highly entertaining. It's called Ode to Garlic. Sudden, it comes for you in the cave of yourself, where you know and are lifted by important events. Say you are dining and it happens. Soaring like an eagle, you are pierced by a message from the midst of life. Memory, what holds the days together, touches your tongue. It is from deep in the earth and it reaches out kindly saying, "Hello, old friend." It makes us alike, all offspring of powerful forces, part of the one great embrace of democracy, united across every boundary. You walk out generously, giving it back in a graceful wave what you've been given. Like a child again, you breathe on the world and it shines.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
All right. I made some pesto today. I used local hazelnuts and lots of garlic.
Yeah.
Lots of garlic, yeah, so. Mark, come on up.
Marky Mark.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
The moonlight serenade. Charles, come on up here.
Charles likes to be on film.
Yeah. Either side's good stuff.
They're all good.
Leo, he's always filming. That's our record keeper.
Mm-hmm. The
Am I in the
Akashic
right spot?
record, recorded here.
Am I in the right spot?
Yeah. Wherever you are.
How's everybody
there you
doing
are.
tonight? Great Paul tonight.
Yes.
Michael doing a great job.
Oh, good poetry.
Well, you know.
Getting pretty good at this.
Ken's watching me, just make sure.
All right. Mark, I appreciate your sentiment of the sacredness of poetry night.
I do too.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing we're doing. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to be beautiful.
We are.
We are, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing how poetry night's always been a very accepting place. It's one of the beautiful things.
True.
People are very supportive. Anyway, I was, I kind of wrote something at the last minute. I just put it out there. I guess I was feeling frustrated about writing and this old conflicts with love-hate stuff with language and wanting to get better as a poet and sometimes doubting that I'm a very good poet and all this kind of stuff. And then, okay, what do I want to write? I'm looking at the blank page and I want to write words. And then 3 words from Hamlet came to my mind. Okay, a role I had the honor of playing a long time ago. Words. Words. What is a poet sick of words, tired of tropes, fed up to hear with avoiding cliche, feeling enslaved to the wordy compulsion to articulate foggy feelings, enthralling abstractions, intuitions, whispers of sweet nothings in my ear for a clever turn of phrase, to map out in metaphoric vehicles the territories of life. I'm going somewhere, but as soon as I get out of the vehicle, the rest is silence. The world of words is not the world, yet it is a world, or part of the world. And a magical one, I must concede, these mouth and throat blown sounds that sometimes seem, in English, to me so much gibberish. Yet they conjure phantasms of meaning, and we can more or less agree on the meaning, a shared hallucination, another stream of dream within the dream of us dreamers. It sometimes seems a groggy, drunken, hungover dream, sweaty covers in a snore and fart-filled hostile dorm bunk. Where the F am I? I want to get out. I lose all my luggage, fly a naked bird to a pristine, empty beach. No sound but wind and surf and random gulls of unknown tongue. Countless anonymous sand syllables mute beneath my feet. Time-polished ruins of ancient worlds, of words of bards echoing nothing from before history and birdsong, before the first Proto-jellyfish dreamed the first eons-long whale song in ocean unarticulated by land, continuous vowel flow with no ear to echo. My throat a virgin yet to speak, breath my only simple song, as if the first upon this beach what I may hear of my heart will be finally clear, what I may speak, what I might speak, and who would hear and who would care, and what the F would I talk about? Wait, it's just a metaphor, a meta dream. Got lost in language for a moment. So what I meant to mean was this, that ocean and that beach, where shore store of language and language's source meet, may somehow dwell within my heart and speech, wash clean my wording, freshness gleaming, glistening on each newborn phrase, weighted, full, and pregnant with ancientness of days, that all the birds might whisper clear into my ear, and I may be a vehicle for creative clarity to appear. True poetry, wise and wild, to sow healing and harmony so needed here. If this poem doth sound pretentious, let me be clear, 'tis meant to be playful as well as serious, with a grateful nod to Shakespeare. And at the risk of sounding delirious, if I could escape the fears and inflations of ego's tyrannical sphere, perhaps the elusive muse will like my dream and draw near. Then she'll whisper in my ear, I might think about it, but to be a poet worth your salt, you'll have to quit dreaming so much and get up off your rear. The ocean of primordial poetry bliss is filled with a lot of sweat and tears.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, in case that bombs, I better get something off the shelf. And I immediately reached for this collection of Neruda.
Neruda.
Oh, I love
Neruda. And I skimmed through the table of contents, and there was one called The Word. And I think I may have read this years ago. I'm sure I did. And maybe a little subconscious bits of that came out in the poem and led me to pull it off the shelf. Full circle. The Word. The Word was born in the blood, grew in the dark body, beating, and flew through the lips and the mouth. Farther away and nearer still it came from dead fathers and from wandering races, from lands that had returned to stone, weary of their poor tribes. Because when pain took through the roads, the settlements set out and arrived, and new lands and water reunited to sow their word anew. And so, this is the inheritance. This is the wavelength which connects us with the dead man and the dawn of new beings not yet come to light. Still, the atmosphere quivers with the initial word dressed up in terror and sighing. It emerged from the darkness, and until now there is no thunder that rumbles yet with all the iron of that word, the first word uttered. Perhaps it was only a ripple, a drop, and yet its great cataract falls and falls. Later on, the word fills with meaning. It remained gravid and it filled up with lives. Everything had to do with births and sounds. Affirmation, clarity, strength, negation, destruction, death. The verb took over all the power and blended existence with essence in the electricity of its beauty. Human word, syllable, combination of spread light and the fine art of the silversmith, hereditary goblet which gathers the communications of the blood. Here is where silence was gathered up in the completeness of the human word, and for human beings, not to speak is to die. Language extends even to the hair. The mouth speaks without the lips moving. All of a sudden, the eyes are words. I take the word and go over it as though it were nothing more than a human shape. Its arrangements awe me, and I find my way through each variation in the spoken word. I utter and I am, and without speaking, I approach the limit of words and silence. I drink to the word, raising a word or a shining cup. In it I drink the pure wine of language or inexhaustible water, maternal source of words, and cup and water and wine give rise to my song, because the verb is the source and vivid life. It is the blood which expresses its substance and so implies its own unwinding. Words give glass quality to glass, blood to blood, and life to life itself.
Man. Neruda just, oh my God, incredible. Shannon?
Yes.
All right, Shannon. Welcome.
Thank you.
Give me a seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my second time.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, here's the spot. And the next square. Okay, let's see. I just brought two things to read from a little book that a little self-published thing that I
Oh,
did.
nice.
So last week I read the first chapter from my memoir, which is called Diary. And that was a good experience. I think that is only the second time I read it out loud. So that was really emotional, that chapter, because it was the first chapter and it was from the viewpoint of a child who's not quite 3 years old. And it was about the death of my mother. So that was pretty, it's different because then you're trying to write it from the viewpoint of a 3-year-old, but you're seeing it as an adult, but then you also realize there are a lot of things that are missing, of course, because you didn't have the perception, and you never will. You'll never get that. Anyway, so at the end of that chapter, I wrote a poem. I think in my memoir, each chapter will end with a poem, so.
Nice. Nice.
Let's see, I have to find it. Sorry about that. Oh, I did it as a separate section. Okay. So this is called Baby Bangs. Sharp, scissors, snip. Cut my baby hair late June, after Mama died. Hid behind the tufted couch. Managed not to poke my eye. Just the bangs, I did. Got the scissors from Mama's pretty sewing basket. The one she used to hem and mend and hum. Daddy called my name as I cut my baby bangs. What's a 3-year-old to do? A baby copes in silent ways, fractured days. Even Freud confounded. Ah, but Jung, long-standing guardian of the rose-strewn tomb.
Wow.
That took a bit too, right? But that's good. I like it. And then the second one is completely different. What I like, I'm writing memoir, and I also do. I've done essays, and then I decided to try my hand at poetry. And so most of my poetry is more along with the lines of my memoir, or it follows with an essay, or what I would call my typical writer self. But what I've noticed about poetry, and I don't know if it's true for any of you, is that sometimes you find yourself just coming at it from a completely different point of view. Sometimes it can be influenced by the news or just the place that you are or the seasons. And
so you can, I just love that feeling that it's completely different maybe than what you would think of your normal thing. And anybody else experience that? Where it just comes out of the blue. In fact, people think, did you write that? You? Okay, all right.
I think that
Yeah,
when that happens and I write something down and, it's on a napkin or it's whatever,
Exactly.
right? And you find it
Yes.
later and you go,
yeah. Where did that come from?
yeah.
Yeah, it's good. But like I said, I think that sometimes we're influenced by news, at least in the case of this poem I was. This I wrote a few years ago. I lived in Eugene at that time. There was a lot of controversy over the building of the new basketball arena, how much that was going to cost, the huge salaries of some of these folks, the amount we're spending on athletics versus education. And there was an item in the news that I had been following in the news about 3 star basketball players at a party, and a young woman evidently went into the bathroom with these 3. And so, of course, the versions of what happened in there came from different viewpoints, as we can imagine. And especially because the young woman wound up going home with one of them. You can just imagine all the conflicting viewpoints that there were from the district attorney, from her parents, from the basketball players themselves, and athletic department. So this poem is called Unprosecutable. 3 ducks take on 1 flirtatious fawn. Your version of a sneaky power play, just days away from the NCAA. You call that the benchmark of a duck? Or just a stroke of sheer good luck? And in a bathroom, no less. So the cops, the DA, the campus bigwigs did their best? We can only guess. A millennial trio's night of fun. Just boys who mainly see women as toys. Pulled and cold, straight from Xbox. What a total raging avatar fox. It can't be a crime. We ain't doing no time. Poor fame-struck groupie in way over her head. Morning came round, and she was still in the bed. Some sort of self-esteem survivor syndrome, you say? No way. Give us a break from your PhD Femi psychobabble take. Now a snoopy professor kicks up a royal fuss, and a washed-up politician calls it fun and lust. Now the team is short its point guard and stars. The Fat Cat basketball dome sits empty, big as Mars. But buy your season passes, because we still need to pay for Phil Kenny's oh so grand and bloated heyday.
Thank you, Shannon. Lenny, did you want to do something?
I do.
Okay, come on up.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that this is indeed a sacred space, and that I've always been tremendously mic shy and being in front of people shy. And it's been incredible that I get up and play the fool that I do here. The other thing I want to say is, I said it the last time I was here, I have really lost a lot of people in the last few years that are really near and dear to me. And grief doesn't shrink, but we grow around it enough to incorporate it into our whole life experience. We both lost our nephews within like 6 or 7 weeks of one another, and out of the blue, and really hit me hard because I have sons that age, and I have asked the universe, do anything you want, but not that. Anything, really. Sometimes the people that we lose are so close to us that it's almost unbearable. And it is private. And so I respect and appreciate your point of view about that. However, the song I'm going to sing has nothing to do with all of that grief, but with the continuation of life. And it's called Broadleaf, and I wrote it in, I think, about 1983 when my sons were little. And in Ohio, where I grew up, the deciduous trees are called broadleaves. And I'm going to really screw it up, I'm sure, vocally, so bear with me. And I need to sit down. It's based musically on the cycle of fifths, and I'm sure I'm going to tonally screw it up, but first I have to imagine the trees. Sweet green of the broadleaves, the broadleaves are swishing and swaying, bending their arms to the sun. They bend low when it's raining, whispering strength and enduring, like a cool hand on the brow. Spring merges to summer, still growing, accepts the fall. You have to hear the cycle fits in your head. The trees are my friends, just as they have been, through seasons and changes, from where I sat wide-eyed, dreaming my dreams and wishing on the stars, searching very hard in my backyard. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so Leslie ends another incredible poetry night. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you.